my friends, welcome back to my channel. I know I look rough, but hey, I've been working and cleaning the house all day, and I'm watching the presidential debate. It just started 20 minutes ago, and I thought, hey, I was gonna do this earlier before the debate started, but I didn't get to get my shower, get my makeup on because I've been cleaning the house all day. I was like, hey, y'all can join me for the debate. I'm having a baked potato and a ribeye steak. So, leave comments. I know we got to go live sometime. I got to figure it out. So, alright, y'all just watch me and listen to the show. Or we'll listen to it till I finish eating. Ribeye.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of this. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look,
yeah, Biden.
This border in the history of our country. All he had to do was leave him. All he had to do was leave him.
He reminds me of that little thing on, hold on, that TV show, wasn't Creep Show, it was called something. Back in the 90s.
Some mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now. All terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere.
You know, he was,
all over the world, they're pouring in.
had a little bit of hair, and he was like this dead creature, whatever it's called.
And he didn't need legislation, because I didn't have legislation.
Biden.
I said close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol,
I have butter on my potato.
And by the way, who endorsed me for president? But I won't
And
say
I
that.
have
Who endorsed me for president?
cheese.
Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history.
And
There's never been
scallions.
anything like it. And people are dying all over the
I
place.
was gonna put some bacon.
President Trump. President Biden?
Real bacon, that stuff's in the package, or chopped up, cooked and chopped. I accidentally put too much in my, I was making some pasta salad, and I accidentally put too much in there. So, that's alright.
Killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through. The idea for emptying our prisons, we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating. He's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world, and it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with a bad water, including
Well, my son asked me,
hundreds of
what we having for
thousands of
supper
people
tonight?
dying.
His girlfriend's here. I said steak. He goes, we'll go out to eat.
We are
I'm with me.
living right now in a rat's nest.
I'll save y'all for another
Killing
time.
our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl.
Biden looks like he just looked at a pretty
This
day.
is horrible what's taking place.
Don't
What's
smell
taking
her.
place in our country. We're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know.
He could be thinking, Trump's a lady, I want to smell her.
And we have to get a lot of these people out.
I put my
We have
arm
to get
around her
them
and
out
give her a
fast
little smell.
Because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New
No
York
Dr.
City
Pepper.
and other
And I got some
places.
unsweet tea over here
Our
too.
veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA Of course, he's
Excuse me.
gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved. By far the highest, and now it's down at less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing you say is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since they passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son's
I just know
I'm
in a worse position now since Biden was been president.
in France for the D-Day. And
At least back then I could afford health insurance. Can't afford it now.
I went to the
Can't afford my medicine.
One cemetery he refused to go to. He was staying with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, he's not a sucker. You're the sucker, you're the loser.
President Trump.
First of all, that was a made-up for suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine, This Family, like many of these
That potato
magazines.
is delicious.
He made that up. He put it in
I know I
commercials.
should have my other light on, but I don't want to have it on when I'm watching
And think of
this TV
Who
show.
would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taking better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. American history. And they now are their family.
Maybe they're more dog fight.
Is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip
No,
them.
I think they're cats.
That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
Topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its 3rd year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian
This steak is
territory
getting
it has
better and
already
better.
claimed, and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he
Hang on
encouraged
here.
Russia from
Let me
going
put
in.
up this tiny
I
bit.
tell you
This
what
over
happened. He
here.
was so bad with Afghanistan.
I don't know if y'all can get
It
this
was
in other
such a
countries.
horrible, embarrassing,
I'll turn
most
this tiny bit.
embarrassing moment in the history of our country. That when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, and he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated.
Oh, they were turning off the microphones when they're not speaking.
We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that,
I like when
he
they
said,
jump in and start arguing with each other.
And maybe take my.
And that's the
This
thing.
was his dream. I talked to him about it. His dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never.
I
Just
didn't want a
like
good baked
Israel
potato.
would have never been invaded
Mm.
in a million years by Hamas. You know why? because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
I think I only had one since my mother died.
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. Listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish. Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He didn't want able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never said that.
For 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look,
My mother should be in the living room
if we had a leader in this war,
with a tea tree, eating her steak and
he's given
potato.
$200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever.
True.
And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending.
It's not our
should never
war.
happen. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled.
We're already in debt. I don't know where the hell the
money's
money's coming from. I've said this before.
And I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
Biden should be financing this himself.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire. Not just a piece, he wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
And then you think he'll stop
Putin,
there?
we should be
You think
sending
he'll
him.
stop when
Not
he-
Putin.
if he
Biden.
takes Ukraine? What do you
Putin
think
too.
happens to Poland?
They
What
all
do
should
you
be
think
chipping in paying for this
happens
war.
to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine and from weapons we make here in the United States, we give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving
I'm
on
not-
to the Middle East.
I'm doing my
October,
head.
Hamas attacked Israel,
So we're just
killing
giving
more
them
than 1,000 people and taking
weapons.
hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which is 3 stages.
I think it's not that
The
dark.
first
It's
stage
just
is
like that on
treating
camera.
the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas.
Well, it says 90
You
minutes
don't
long.
understand that.
I wonder if it's going to be
to get them to accept
90
the
minutes
wait time.
straight, or
What's
will they
happening
have a break?
in Israel? We found out the only thing I've denied Israel is
They old
2,000
men.
bombs. They don't work very well.
They at least put them in a
Populated areas,
table.
We're providing
You know, at the
them all
end,
the weapons
then-
they need and when they need
Oh.
them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown in a kind of
I think it's more,
missile attack on Israel.
get more
No
done.
one
Like
was
you're
hurt.
sitting at a table. It's kind of like
Israel was accidentally killed.
you're breaking
and
bread
It just stopped. We saved
with a
Israel.
friend
We
or
are the biggest producer,
neighbor or
the
something.
supporter Israel of anyone in the world. And so they're two different things. Hamas cannot allow
You do a lot more
We continue to send our
if you're sitting at
experts
the table.
and we're telling people as to how they can get Hamas
But if-
like we did Ben Laden. They don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas. Greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting old. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them, as far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? Are you going to pull out of NATO? The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. What happens then? He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia? At a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is
Too much pepper in that spot.
including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about. where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those?
I'm glad I didn't
who
make my
believe
corn
that
on
you
cob,
violated
'cause I'm getting
your
full.
constitutional oath through your actions in action on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, what they say, but she's saying, oh no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I
Can
said,
you feel
"They'll
it?
have some National Guard
Can you
or whatever."
feel it?
And I
Can
offered
you
it to her,
feel it?
and she now admits that she turned it down.
Who's
And
that
it was the same day she was, I don't know, he can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up to Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, he talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America.
This
In
last
fact,
piece
he says he'll not forgive them for what they've done.
has the best taste.
And they've been convicted.
It is
He says he wants
perfect.
to commute their sentences and say that you know.
I said 3 or 4 more
every single
pieces, I think.
nation, I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, and put in the Supreme Court, and they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be being held accountable. And he wants to let the law out, and now he says that he will do it again, such a whiner that he is. I think we have a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down
My hair looks
Portland,
terrible.
when they ripped down many other cities, so you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there, with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took
thought y'all
over
might
big
just
chunks
like
of
to
Seattle. I
join
was
me
all
for a
set to
quick
bring in
meal.
the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left.
Watch my reactions
immediately.
and talk about this
What he
movie.
said about this whole subject is just so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other
I
thing.
try to get this edited and
The
it's out tonight.
Unselect Committee, which is basically 2 horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the
I'm not gonna
information
have the
they
whole
found
thing.
because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to
Thank
jail.
you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon, is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turning over statues. The idea that those people are patriots? Come on. When I asked them those first 2 debates we had, the debates we had first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boy? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? You denounce the people we're talking about now? You denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month,
Why don't
you
they
said
let
if
him
reelected, you
answer
would, quote,
back?
have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th.
Maybe because this is a fake news
Your main
channel
political
that's
opponent
doing
is standing
that
on stage with you
debate.
tonight. Can you clarify
yeah.
exactly what it means about
They don't
retaining
need
whether
to
or
hear
not
the
go after
truth.
your political opponents?
Okay, well, I'm going to stop it here. We're at 25 minutes, and I hope y'all enjoyed my meal and listening to this with me. And to make sure to subscribe, like, comment, share, click that bell notification. Make sure it's all black, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye bye.